These are the interviews from Chat City on Preston FM. Don't forget, our show is live weekdays from 10 till noon. Tune in and become part of our family.
Have you got pen and paper to the ready? Because right now it's our Foodie Friday with Paul and Diana Peacock from City Cottage magazine, and today it's cheap raspberry jam. I wonder what expensive raspberry jam is compared with cheap raspberry jam. Anyway, here's Paul and Diana.
So we're making a raspberry jam, but it's February.
Yes, well, these are the frozen raspberries.
I was going to say, you don't get raspberries in February, not even in the greenhouse.
No, you don't. Now you can buy frozen raspberries, or go and collect them in the summer, freeze them. And if you put them in smallish batches, if you don't want to make a load of jam. I mean, there's only 500 grams of raspberries here, but it'll make 2 jars.
But see, a really good trick, especially at this time of the year, in December, all of those people who were going to make pavlovas but never got around to buying the raspberries from the freezer counter, those raspberries are now going cheap. So you can make yourself some really superb but cheap raspberry jam. You can. From frozen
and it's very,
raspberries.
very easy. There's no sort of... people have this illusion that it's a bit difficult and has to be
it's
rigorously...
This is WI sort of territory, isn't it?
But I make it every week or every other week of some kind or other.
And if you're going to make a jam sandwich, it's not a jam sandwich, a Victoria sandwich.
Oh, well, raspberry jam is just the best.
You just can't do anything better.
Yeah, now, so what we've got in the pan, and what I'm doing is on very low light. So there's 500 grams of frozen raspberries, 500 grams of jam sugar.
Same amount of sugar to the raspberries?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's the juice of half a lemon.
Okay.
That's the acidity factor that you need for your jam to set. Your pectin in your jam sugar or in your fruit needs acid. So if your fruit isn't very acidic, like raspberries and strawberries are not, so soft fruits generally are not very acidic. The juice of half a lemon, plus I use my shell to measure out the same amount of water, because you don't need too much water, because soft fruits, especially frozen ones, give off a lot of juice.
Of course, there's a lot of ice in there, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Now, where does the pectin come from?
Now, the pectin is in the jam sugar.
You've used jam sugar?
It's not preserved. Right. Now, preserving sugar is different. It doesn't have pectin in, and it has very big crystals. It does make reasonably good jam, but the crystals take ages to dissolve. So I tend to use either ordinary granulated sugar, with pectin added if necessary. You don't need to add pectin with some fruits, but with raspberries you do. So I just use the jam sugar because it takes all the worry of the pectin and also the timing of your jam. Now, if you put your frozen raspberries straight into the pan you're going to use and allow them to defrost, once they're defrosted, add your jam sugar and your lemon juice and your water, and then just stir it and then just leave it for about half an hour. Because what happens is the sugar starts to melt and it makes the job even that easier. Right. You don't have to cook your raspberries first. You don't have to do all that.
You just throw it in a pan.
You just put everything in together, and it makes it a very easy jam to make. Once this is dissolved, I'm going to bring it to the boil, and then I'm going to boil it quite rapidly for 4 minutes only.
Okay.
And I can guarantee I'll have a set because of using the jam sugar, especially with the frozen and this recipe. And I'll have 2 jars of delicious, relatively cheap jam.
And you don't need even to do a test?
No, well, you can do if you wish, and it's probably best to if you're not used to making jam. You can either do the flake method where you lift your spoon up away from your pan,
and it starts to,
and it will start as it drips. It should drip, and the drip should set. Or the easiest way is to keep a small saucer or a plate in your freezer till you're just about to do it, and then bring it out and use the very cold plate, and it will, as soon as you drip it onto your plate and let it cool, it'll start to set, and once it's cool, just push it with your finger and it should remain wrinkled. If it doesn't remain wrinkled, comes back, it's not set. But always remove it from the heat when you're testing it. If you don't, it will continue to cook and you might overcook and it be an overset, and it can start to toffify.
Toffee.
Yeah, but you don't want that if you're making jam. No. Right now I think I'm ready to bring it to the boil.
Now, how do you know
there's no sugar crystals left?
This is now coming up to the boil, and we're going to boil it for
4 minutes. And I'm using my stopwatch on my phone because I'm already using my time
for something else on the oven.
I'm baking some custards. Yeah. Right, now it's boiling, so I'm going to start the stopwatch.
Now that it's boiled away and we've done our little flake test,
it's going to go into my sterilised jars. And I've got a jam funnel here because that makes it so much easier when you're transferring from the hot pan.
It's a bigger space, isn't it?
Because you keep it, and also it doesn't dribble down the sides and it goes straight into your jars. As soon as you've filled your jar, screw your lid on tight and then just put it to one side.
Now, presumably with raspberry jam, unlike strawberries, you don't have to worry about the the fruit floating inside.
No, you still can leave it for a few minutes in the pan away from the heat once it's got setting point, because that does allow it to settle down before you put it into your jars. You don't have to,
no,
if you're hurrying, but a couple of minutes and then give it a stir and then just ladle it into your jars. Screw the lids on tightly. Leave them to go cool before you put any kind of label on.
I was going to say,
the labels
you
don't
need
stick.
to put a label on it, because
Always
you
put
have
a label
to
on,
remember
because
when
especially if you're making a lot of different jams, because they're often, especially the red jams, and if I use a summer fruit mixture with red currants, strawberries, all the fruits that I've got bits and bobs of left, cherries, anything you can put together in the freezer, use them.
There we are, easy raspberry jam. And that was Paul and Diana Peacock, our Foodie Friday from City Cottage magazine. So you can find the recipe and find out more about Paul and Diana Peacock by going to the City Cottage magazine site. And you're with Chat City, Preston FM.
Thanks for listening to our podcasts. But don't forget, Chat City is live weekdays from 10 till noon on 103.2 Preston FM.